everybody, or shall I say, hey mom, and hopefully others who are watching. My name is Jay, as you know by now, and this is an experiment I've been thinking about for quite some time in this era of COVID-19, so many things happening in our world, and I wanted to feel like I was contributing to the conversation in a positive way. So over the next several weeks, maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once a week, I'll be doing these quick shows, if you will, on Facebook, where hopefully you can gain some insight from. And so I want to bring in my first guest ever, and that is Amber Schindeldecker. Amber, thank you for, I feel like we should have a round.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, Amber is here. Today we're going to talk about finding a job. Now, Amber, I know Amber because she was a fellow journalist of mine. I worked with her at KARE 11. She was the producer for the 10 o'clock news, the highest rated newscast when she was there. Very accomplished journalist. She made the transition to communications, strategic communications, crisis communications for the state of Minnesota. So let's just say you're very busy. So we appreciate you taking the time. And also, if I guess you sleep sometimes, you're also a job coach. And so that's where I really wanted to hone in on some of your experience, your personal experience, but also your experience in coaching folks. And so thank you for joining us. And the first question I have for you is, you know, this is something that's unprecedented right now. It's tough enough to find a job. It's even tougher when you're doing it in an historic time like this. But you can, at least in some slivers, relate, can't you?
I can, yes. In September of 2015, when I was still working at KARE, our management team called me in and just said, hey, Amber, we think we're going to go in a different direction. We're not going to renew your contract, which was up in December. And so they were very generous in giving me a 4-month window in which I could try to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. But it was also a little bit scary in that I had just bought a new car. I really didn't know how I was going to make a car payment. And I was in the TV news business for 12 years. It was my dream job. So what was I going to do with myself?
So so many people right now are thinking that as well. They're thinking, how am I going to find a job? They might be thinking, maybe I find a new career. You've gone through all of that, and albeit not during a pandemic, but nonetheless, it's still tough no matter when you're doing it. So let's talk about some of the tangible, practical things that you discovered along the way. I feel like I'm a visual learner, so I'd rather have something to show folks. So again, I'm calling this How to Find a Job, Think Like a TV Producer, i.e. Amber. First one you have there, making connections. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so first thing I did was give myself a good foundation. And that foundation was sprucing up my LinkedIn page. This allowed me to really showcase the work that I had done in TV news, put on clips from the 10 p.m. newscast. A lot of what I had on there was just a base level amount of information. I was able to have people write recommendations for me and put them on LinkedIn and just really build that out so that I could then connect with trusted sources that KARE 11 used on a regular basis and say, hey, you know, we've worked with you professionally in the news business. You might not know me, but could we connect here on LinkedIn? And that helped me really expand my network base.
And that's one thing that not only journalists do, because we do it as sourcing, but in the every other day world, it's networking, common sense networking that so often I think people forget about.
Yep.
And then that leads into the next one, employing the snowball effect. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I realized that people knew me and knew the work that I did based on the 10 o'clock news, but they didn't necessarily know who I was. They knew all the anchors and the reporters, but they didn't know the person behind the scenes. And so I asked people to meet with me, not to give me a job, not to throw me a bone in some way, shape, or form, but just to introduce myself to them, to let them know who I was and the skill set that I offered. And then in the midst of introducing myself to them, I asked them to introduce me to 3 other people, 3 people within their network, or 3 people that they might know in potential industries that I might want to work in. so that the one person that I meet with becomes 4, which becomes 12. And that's the snowball effect that allows you to build your network base and get yourself out there much quicker.
And to me, this is really important, not just for people who have lost a job, but people who still have a job, because you
Exactly.
never know when that's going to happen. And I'm in that camp too. I need to do a better job of networking, just to say hello and broaden your network. Who knows when you might want to tap that for whatever reason. So that's really important. The next one you talk about is get visible. What do you mean by that?
So getting visible for me involved talking about my journey on social media, not only on my Facebook and my Twitter pages, but I also started my own website, a blog on WordPress. And that allowed me to not only put my resume on there, but examples of my work. I had Julie Nelson, Randy Shaver, Belinda Jensen, and Eric Perkins write recommendations. So recommendations from high-profile people or people that have a standing in the industry or the business that you currently work in to vouch for you, to say this person is worth a lick of salt. And then just start blogging, start talking, and be vocal. Get out there and be visible so people can see you and relate to you. To be relatable is worth gold.
Yeah, and that's one thing I really appreciated about what you did during this time, is that you used the skills that you used every night at 10 o'clock to tell a story, to get someone's attention and then keep it. The only difference was, instead of telling someone else's story, you're telling your own. And you did it in a way that was very transparent. So not only did people understand your skills, they got to know you as a person. So a lot of that was already taken care of even before you shook someone's hand in the interview room.
Exactly. Yes. I decided that I wanted to approach this whole entire journey with a sense of honesty and transparency, in that I wanted to let people know who I was, what I was feeling, the emotions that were coming along with it, and who I was, and be honest about it. If it was a good day, I wanted to let them know it was a good day. If it was a bad day on unemployment, I wanted to let them know that, yes, I had to call Xcel Energy and tell them that I couldn't afford to make that bill today or this month because I wasn't getting paid. So just to have that relationship with people out there, that's what people want. People want to have that connection.
Leads to the next item. You say, become a storyteller. And that's really, you already know how to do that. But so often I think people forget about telling their own story.
Yeah. So like I said before, people knew the work that I did because it was on the news every night, but they didn't know me. And so I wanted to let people know a couple of different things. Number one, I love to write. I am a writer at heart. I am somebody that can take a mass amount of information and boil it down into something that's understandable for people. And just think about what I tell my clients is to imagine getting into an elevator where you are meeting a crush or maybe a potential employer or a celebrity that you've always wanted to meet your whole entire life. Think about the 30-second pitch that you want to give them about who you are. 3 small bullet points. What are those big 3 things that you want to portray to people? And then once we have those 3 things, we can build on those and expand on those. And that becomes your story.
And really, what's the first goal as a storyteller? Finding your focus and then building from there. And that's exactly what you do.
Yep.
Last but not least, honest and transparent.
Yeah, so this goes both ways, in that I needed to be honest and transparent with myself in saying, okay, these are the jobs and industries that I think that I want to work in, number one, but also honest and transparent with the people, the network that I was meeting with, letting them know that I wasn't wanting to take advantage of them, or I didn't want them to just give me something on a silver platter. And like I said before, being honest and transparent about the bad days, the good days. If you're having that struggle, talk about it. People struggle. It's human nature. And we want to be all in the same boat together. We want to be in the same spot where we can say, yeah, I understand what she's going through.
That's great. those are all great tips, tangible, practical things that people can do. So hopefully folks at home find that beneficial. Last question I want to ask you that I think is just as important as the checklist that we just talked about is the emotional checklist. Things that happen when you're looking for a job at any time, but especially now, you are most likely going through an emotional roller coaster. I know I am, and I have a job. So I can only imagine what it's like for folks who don't. What are some things looking back on your time looking for a job that helped, that might help others?
First things first is treat looking for a job like a job itself. I had the opportunity of having those 4 months where I was able to do the job networking while working. Now I worked late at night, so I could meet with people for coffee in the morning. So that allowed me to really meet with a lot of people, 98 people in the span of 4 months, and expand that network. So number one, treat it like a job. Number two, wake up and act like you're going to that job. Don't sit in your pajamas on your couch all day. It'll be very easy for you to do that. Get out to a park, somewhere that's open where you can work and do that networking outside of your house. Or if you have to be inside of your house, do it from a different room, not the couch, not your bedroom, not some place where you're going to get complacent and say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. Today is today. And then the third thing is find a support system. You know, I had a step-aunt who had her own business that gave me a spare desk in the corner of her office. She said, come here every day, do your calls, do your emails, do your networking, send out your resumes from that desk. And then the fourth and final thing that I'll throw in as an aside is don't apply everywhere. Be strategic about the jobs that you think they would have a hard time telling you no at.
Yeah.
You want to apply for those jobs where they're going to go, well, this person is a slam dunk. 30 resumes, sending out 30 resumes is going to get you nowhere. In my job search, I sent out 10 resumes. I got 5 interviews, and I landed 1 job. That's the kind of ratio we're going for.
That's great. And I love the fact that you're applying the skills that you already have to finding a job. And you're really, you know, like you said, working every day, like this is your full-time job. And the one last thing I would hope people get from this, and I'll let you have the last word, but in your time doing this, did you ever think a year, 2, whatever years later, that you'd be doing this, that you'd be telling people how to find a job? Not only telling people, but you're now communicating some pretty important stuff for the state of Minnesota. My point is this: there is always hope. No matter what, in anything we do in this world, there is always hope.
There is always hope. You know, I think it's important for all of us to remember that we all have our own stories. And if we all take the time to really assess what our passions are and what our interests are, and then if we decide not to settle, that's where we find that hope. Yeah. And there's a place out there for everybody. So all we have to do is find it, right? That's what I enjoy about job coaching for other people, is seeing that process and getting them to believe in themselves and their passion enough to not settle and to find their place.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully everybody at home, you found some little nugget of truth for you, and just know that we're thinking of you, and we'll get through this.
We will.
We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.